What's up, guys? Welcome to Oh What a Marvel, the podcast on the Merc with Movie blog, the podcast feed, YouTube channel, whatever, where we talk about the MCU TV series. I think we've talked about a movie or two before, but mostly the TV shows. I am one of your hosts, Sean. I'm joined by Dean. Hello, Dean.
Hi, I've been demoted this week, everybody.
You are I guess. Well, yeah, because last week you had to take over because I was sick. I learned a little neat thing, Dean, 10 seconds ago. I
Okay, well,
learned.
go on.
I learned that when the intro video is playing, there's a little progress bar at the bottom. Did you know that?
No, what? There's progress in a
there's
bar?
there's a little bar at the bottom that ticks across that like tells you when the intro video that we play is gonna end. So I actually knew when it was gonna cut back to us.
I could have really used that like every other time.
I do not know if that's always been there, but it was there this time. This week we're talking about Moon Knight episode 3, titled The Friendly Type, directed by Mohamed Diab, written by Beau DeMayo and Peter Cameron and Sabir Pirzada, and it aired yesterday, which was April 13th, 2022, if you're in the future.
Are you reading those names or did you memorize them?
No, I wrote those down and I'm sure I still butchered them. Can you? Yeah, I'm sure I still did a terrible job.
No, it sounded good.
Yeah.
Good. Go on.
You know what? Oh, thank you. No, go on. Praise me more.
You're so wonderful. You should be an avatar for another god that we don't know the name of.
We should be. We'll talk about that in a little bit because I have thoughts, obviously. Yeah. But before we dive into specific stuff overall, I also kind of want to hear your thoughts about last week because I wasn't here. So very briefly, how do you feel about the show so far, 3 episodes in, and more specifically this episode?
Well, last week I definitely felt was like a big step up from first week. I'm not sure. It basically carries the quality is basically the same. I think I do have a few gripes, minor things with this week more so than I had last week. But then there's some really good highs in this week as well, so it kind of evens out. But yeah, if this continues the same level of consistency that that we're seeing throughout the whole thing, this could easily be in the top 2 or 3 of the shows that we've had. I don't know so much how many have we had, 5.
But I mean, I would include the Star Wars shows too. I said today I think this is the best show on Disney Plus so far. First 3 episodes.
Yes, this is definitely better than Hawkeye. This is much better than Boba Fett.
I think it's better than the second season. I think it's better than season 2 of Mandalorian so far.
Oh wow, you was big on Mando as well.
I love Mando. 2. Here's the thing about this season. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning. Okay, so I wasn't here last week. I really enjoyed last week's episode. I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first episode or the 3rd episode. That might have been because I was really sick when I watched it. And to be honest, if you ask me what happened last week, I'm not sure I could tell you. Yeah. I might have to give that another watch at some point before next week. But I was talking to a friend about this week's episode and how much more I'm enjoying this week to week than anything else. And my friend pointed out that we actually have the villain in the show, as a part of it. Arthur Harrow is in every episode interacting with Steven or Mark or whoever. And really, I can't think of any other Disney Plus show where the main antagonist of the series is consistently around like he has been in this one. The connection between Arthur and Steven / Mark / maybe somebody else.
Oh yes.
Yeah. That connection, not only because they interact, does it feel a lot more. Do they just feel more connected and more there's a relationship there, but also Arthur having a prior relationship with Khonshu definitely adds to everything that's happening. So yeah, I love getting to see. I mean, Ethan Hawke, man, killing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of conflicted on this whole stuff because you're right. Mm-hmm. It is cool to have the villain. I mean, I don't need to have the villain around the whole time, but what I definitely don't need is where we don't really have a clear-cut villain in a show until the last 2 episodes, and then
we're
just going to throw in a Cad Bane, or we're going to throw in Kingpin, and all that kind of stuff. I hate that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
and I do like having somebody around at least more consistently. However, I'm kind of getting really irritated with the way Ethan Hawke kind of just every time there's a scene now, it just feels like he just has to like hobble in like
I'm
from the
very
background mysteriously
I'm very
every
curious
time.
how he's going to be a physically threatening villain in the end.
Yeah.
Because he's very much like, but I really enjoy, dude, Groot's in the chat. That's crazy. What's up, Groot?
Oh wow.
I'm such a huge fan. I hear you guys are wrapping filming in a few weeks on uh all the Guardians things that are filming right now. So I can't
Yeah,
wait.
let's get that holiday special scoop.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, if you have anything, Groot, you can say about the holiday special. I hit it. I don't want to hear about Volume 3, but specifically the holiday special. Yeah, no, Arthur Harrow is a villain that's kind of like, you're right. It does feel like whenever he shows up, he's always like mysteriously walking in from the shadows, and he's like, "I've been here, and I have something to tell you."
In
Like,
places that he shouldn't,
yeah,
doesn't always make sense for him to kind of be there.
him showing up at the like meeting at the end of, or like towards the end of this episode with Anton Morgat is the character, the actor's name, Gaspard Ulliel. Rest in peace. He is the actor who passed away pretty
Oh, it's
recently in a
that guy.
skiing accident. That was him. In the credits, there's a little like memorial, in memoriam thing or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Classy stuff.
yeah. In that scene, Arthur just shows up, and I'm like, "What are you doing? How did you know?" Which, I mean, I guess they do show that like they're being tailed and stuff, and like this cult goes
Yeah.
deep, but it like the only point of comparison that I can make is Hawkeye is Hydra. Is where
Right.
Hydra, there was a long time in the MCU in the movies and also in like the TV shows that nobody talks about, where it was kind of like this. Hydra's always around, and Hydra's yeah, exactly. Hydra's always watching. Hydra always is there, and it built over time enough to the point where I think when Hydra showed up, it was a little bit more like, yeah, I get that. Whereas this one, whenever like the cult, like Amit's cult shows up, you're kind of like, where have you been? Like, we're just hearing about you, and yet you guys seem to be like literally everywhere.
Yeah, like it. Like, firstly, he's running a whole community, which is great. He's feeding them, he's housing them. They're all a little bit indoctrinated, and it got weird. But where he's like, he's flying like this whole fucking little town of people around the world. They was in the other place in episode 1. Then they're in were they in
I think they
London
just,
in
I don't know if
episode 2?
I don't know if they're being flown all around. I think it's just implying that he has agents everywhere. Like that that this cult exists in the Swiss Alps or whatever, and I'm telling you, we're gonna go back to that castle. He's still Dracula. I'm still on that, even though there's been no evidence of that. Hashtag it was Dracula all along. That castle is gonna be key to this whole show. Episode 6, we're gonna come back to it, but yeah, I think he's just got like people all over. I think it's the Hydra thing where it's like you never know who's part of the cult of Amit.
Yeah, but what does he do? Like he's just, I don't
He
know.
lets his little cane swing.
He feels like the first episode. I'm like, okay, he's doing like a fun little character thing here that's quite engaging to watch and stuff. But by this episode, I'm just like, it's a little bit one note. He
It
doesn't
is.
really, he doesn't really go up or down or anything. Like I say, he kind of just a scene will end, everything will wrap up, and then it'll just have this long, slow shot of him just walking into the scene to then say stuff that we don't really have a lot of context for
Mhm.
what's going on. Like, why why did he stop hosting Khonshu, but then he's also still in cahoots with the all the other Avatar people? But then Mark, who is Khonshu or has
Mhm.
Khonshu now, doesn't seem to have had any interaction with them. And it
I
seems
think
like
he's a recent though. I think they've said a time frame at one point. I feel like it's only been like a year that Mark has been Moon Knight and has
and
been
it seems like
Khonshu's
they're meeting up
avatar.
regularly. The rest of these
But
people,
Khonshu's also been like exiled, so he's not getting invited to the meetings.
and we don't know why Khonshu's exiled yet.
No,
Which
he says he was the only one that refused to turn his back on humanity, which it seems is explaining why we've never seen these Egyptians. Because that's the thing, right? Okay, this kind of connects to Harrow, and so I want to move into the gods thing because we have that
Yeah.
scene where they have like the meeting where
Lamagra from Blade in the Blood Temple.
yeah, they have like this trial for God, how dare you? Where they have this trial for Harrow, and we go to the Great Temple, the Great Pyramid of Giza. I said the fucking temple because you brought up the blood temple. God damn, the Great Pyramid of Giza. We go through like the portal. I wrote down. I think this was all the gods that had avatars in attendance. It was Hathor, Horus, Isis, Tefnut, and Osiris. I believe those were all the gods' avatars that were in attendance. No Bast. I was waiting for Bast. I thought they were going to have like a Wakandan
never
person.
shows up, flaky motherfucker.
Well, I mean, we really haven't had that many MCU references in this show so far. There was like a GRC reference in episode 1. They mentioned Madripoor in this episode.
Yeah.
I kind of expected like a Wakandan dude to show up and be like, I'm Bast's avatar or whatever. But because Bast has a lot to do with Wakanda in the comics. And I mean, obviously,
right.
In the movie, even they talk about Bast. So I
wasn't sure if all these gods were like specific because I'm not spoiler alert, everyone. I'm not well versed in African mythology.
Yeah.
Right? So I wasn't sure if all of the gods that we're like alluding to here are they all specifically Egyptian gods?
These ones are
like
specifically
Africa
Egyptian
in general, right?
But Bast is also an Egyptian god. The one that they talk about in Black Panther is an Egyptian god. That's all. That is the only exposure to a Bast that I have. I don't know if I mean, when you're talking about like religious things like that, a lot of these religions have ideas of deities that are kind of the same, but they have different names for them and they're slightly different. So I'm not sure if Bast exists in other cultures in Africa in different ways, but I know that specifically there is a Bast in the Egyptian pantheon.
Oh man, Cairo, appropriating Wakandan culture.
Gods versus Eternals, you ignore.
Did it doesn't make it okay.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like gods versus Eternals, who ignores humanity better. I feel like that's more of an indictment on gods because they're like here, right? Eternals are aliens for all intents and purposes. Like their job isn't to really interfere in the affairs of men unless the deviants are involved. And gods are like, this is like your place, right? Like, So, but it also opens the like, because we've already said that the Norse gods are aliens, or at least like Asgard's like another planet. It's like another because they fly there, they leave, in Ragnarok they get in the spaceship and they fly away. And
the Rainbow Bridge is basically just like a wormhole, right?
Pretty much. That's I mean
wormhole.
The 9 realms are just what I've always taken from it is that in the MCU, the 9 realms are just the 9 planets. But
there's more than 9 planets.
But like there are 9 planets that are relevant in look, it all breaks apart when you look at it a little too carefully. It's a delicately interwoven
regions, states,
But the point being that like we've already said that Norse gods are essentially aliens that have then been like inspired Earthling tales and stuff, and we've said that the Eternals kind of invented stuff like some of the Greek pantheons, like what humanity knows as Athena is based off of Athena from the Eternals, like based off of Sprite's stories that were told, and like the story of Icarus is based off of Icarus. So like we've kind of explained away all these deities in the past, but in this one, they're like, no, the Egyptian gods were real and they did shit. Like, it's an interesting,
It's
it's an
weird.
interesting stance.
It's weird and it's risky, I think, for a lot of like, just like casual like MCU fans, because we've already, like you say, we've already established with like the Asgardians, okay, they're gods, but they're not really gods, they're just from another planet. So in this, when they start talking about gods, you're you're just gonna kind of be like, okay, so it's like Thor and stuff, right?
Or
But
even the
then,
Eternals, who are
or even the
essentially
Eternals,
aliens
but
as
then
well.
what are the rules here? Because Thor and Loki and the Eternals, they're bodies, they're people, they can walk around,
Yeah.
they're beholden to the laws of physics for the most part. But these gods, these seem to be like actual gods. These are like more like mystical, like
Possessing people.
ethereal. Yeah, they need an avatar. They don't. So do they? Are they on another planet?
Yeah. Oh
And
God,
they and
he's
they just need to yeah, he's pretty cool.
he's
That's a
so
pretty
cool,
good looking pigeon.
but he looks so weird at the same time. Like whenever you see him on screen, I like, especially when he was really like, they put him in some daylight shots in this episode, and I kind of giggled a little bit every time I saw him. I was like, look at him. Like when he's sitting on the car
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, the tone is risky with that. Like that could have
Yeah.
easily have been very silly.
Yeah. And I think
Not
it is a
it's
little silly unintentionally, but I think it works for the most part.
yeah. I think the voice delivery as well and the design. I think it all just comes together and it's just ridiculous enough, but
Yes.
just like it's not too over the top. Like he's not doing like a ridiculous silly voice. Who's the actor? F. Murray
F. Murray
Abraham.
Abraham, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not doing anything like ridiculous, like because it could quite easily fall into like Venom territory, which I
Mhm.
like, but not everyone
Yeah.
likes that
But is
stuff.
also that's also kind of anti or opposite of the tone of the show.
Hmm.
Like it's very, I mean, although the tone of the show is a little bit all over the place,
It
it's
can be. I
it
thought the first episode was more all over the place. I thought the second
yeah,
episode was really just when it went darker than the first episode. It
yeah,
just kind of stayed that way consistently all the way through. We didn't get the like the typical like MCU like Dayglow look.
yeah.
Um, and I was like, okay, so we had a little bit of that in the first episode. That's getting us like just priming us up, and then we're just going to get deeper and darker. But then in this one, we kind of go a bit more MCU-y in places.
There was
Sort of
one thing that bothered me in this episode,
gone.
and with that, like specifically the kind of MCU-y tone stuff, and that was what is otherwise, I think, a really great scene where Khonshu tells Mark, "Take the kid to the ledge," and
Yeah,
he takes him up to the
Rufio
ledge.
from Hook.
Yeah, yeah. And he holds him there, and he cuts or the kid is like prays on it, cuts the thing, commits suicide, falls to his death. And then we look back up, and Khonshu's like got his leg swinging over the side, sitting there, real casual. And I was like, this kind of really takes me out of this gut punch of Mark watching this kid kill himself. And then it just Khonshu's like chilling there, and I'm like, oh, this kind of feels weird.
Yeah, you know what's weird is that Moon Knight's weakness is mirrors. Like it works for like how we've set the show up and how the character is, both in this show and in the comics. It's a good like gateway to like have that back and forth. But also it's like, really? I could be getting, I'm getting victimed to the justice of the moon god Khonshu, and all I've got to do is like just flash my phone at it. Like, I don't know, but I do like the memento stuff that they was doing at the beginning. I love that we were getting Mark's in control, but then we're getting like the reverse of what we got in episode one, where now we're getting these brief moments of instead of like he
Is it
just
the
like
reverse?
blacks. Well, it might not be, but we'll get
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
But he instead of like blacking out and then waking up and like everyone's all murdered, Mark blacks out and he wakes up and Steven's trying to run away in a
Yeah.
fucking taxi. Like that's so good, it's so perfect. But yeah, I had this thought last week. You would have known if you was here, by the way.
Oh,
But
sorry.
we're just assuming that there's two personalities plus Khonshu, but I get the feeling because there's that bit where he says like
It wasn't me. I didn't
that
do
wasn't
this.
me.
Yeah. No, I
So
definitely think there's a third one.
and he's not refer at first I thought is he referring to Khonshu, like, but then Mark and Khonshu seem to be like fairly, even though they don't really get on, but they seem to generally be on the same page, and Mark is aware of everything that Khonshu or Moon Knight is doing. So this is something else. So and to go back to a point I was making last week, is Mark or Steven even the original personality?
I don't think they are.
Is there like a traumatized like 12-year-old trapped inside there that is like been just repressed for so long, and
I don't know
now
if
he's
it's
coming out in these violent outbursts, or not to say like a
yeah.
12-year-old, but
Yeah, yeah,
some
yeah.
at a different stage of his life, right? That
Yeah.
something happened.
I think it's going to be revealed that the person who was doing all the stuff in episode 1 wasn't Mark. I think we're gonna, because I was thinking back to the stuff that Khonshu was saying in episode 1, and it was very much, he was like, give the body to Mark. Like, he wasn't like, give the body back to Mark.
Back, yeah,
He was like, give the body to Mark, stop this. And he also was surprised to see Steven in the way that implies that,
he's
because
used to having to deal with another person when he
yeah,
switches.
that if he's going to
Yeah,
switch, he's not going to switch to Steven because there was another option. So
yeah,
what I kind of think is that I think it was the third, and also from what we see of what Mark does, I just think about that shot that we cut to where in episode 1 where Steven's hand is just covered in blood, like some of
yeah,
the like Daredevil levels of blood, when like that's all the blood was pouring out of like Kingpin's chest in the season 3,
yeah.
like that seems more violent than anything we've seen Mark do.
Yeah, he's just doing like jabs and throws and
Like it
twist
was
like disarming and stuff.
there was a lot of excessive levels of violence in that first episode that I think
Yeah.
maybe what we're going to learn is that it wasn't cutting to Mike, it was cutting to this other character, this other personality.
Because I know there's more than just two personalities in the comics. I couldn't tell you what,
Mhm.
because they all have
Yeah.
like completely different lives and different names, obviously.
Yeah.
I know Mark and I know Steven. Do you familiar with any of the others?
I know there's one more named, at least the only one that I know beyond this is Jake. And I think his name
Jake,
is Jake. And I think Jake is normally Mr. Knight, which
right.
was a departure because Steven is Mr. Knight in this.
Have you read any of that stuff with the Mr. Knight?
No, I just know it
Because I
from
haven't.
I just know it from in the lead up to the. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never read a Moon Knight comic. I think the only time I've ever seen Moon Knight in the comics is when he was in Ultimate Spider-Man for a little bit.
Oh wow! See,
Um,
I've read the 2005 or 6 run, which was Charlie Houston, David I want to say David Fincher. That's not the artist's name, but
a
something
David Fincher Moon Knight thing would be pretty fucking crazy,
that
though.
would be pretty cool. And then I read the Bendis run as well,
Okay.
which doesn't really do the personalities in the same way as like the traditional with the Mark Steven
I don't
Jake
know if
setup.
I don't know if maybe I just was like really young when I read Ultimate Spider-Man, so like I didn't pick up on it. And Bendis also wrote Ultimate Spider-Man, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember the personalities being a really big thing when Moon Knight showed up in that.
Not really. I mean, he definitely says stuff that's like
Mhm.
he's got some stuff going on, but it's
Mhm.
just like some weird, like kind of off,
It's
like
also
out of
from
left
your
field
point of view,
dialogue
so it's
type
kind of like,
stuff.
what the fuck are you talking about?
But the thing is with the Mr. Knight thing, because obviously a lot of fans are getting real pissed off about the handling of the
Yeah.
Mr. Knight stuff, and I haven't read that run in the comics, but what my estimation of that is that Mr. Knight is much more of like the cold, calculated,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
planning ahead kind of version of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Because regular Moon Knight's just much more of just a mindless brawler,
Mhm.
and obviously the way they've handled it in this, because that run became really popular. That image of him in the suit is stuff is
Yeah.
like is iconic. I
Mhm.
said some of this last week. He's absolutely iconic, and they clearly just wanted to get that suit in the show.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's going to be a season 2. I would have maybe have liked to have seen Mr. Knight as a development that happened maybe down the line. But I don't hate what they're doing with it. But I
I
can understand why people are unhappy with the angle.
I want to make sure of this. I think I just saw today that the show has been submitted to the Emmys as a limited series.
Yeah, it
Um,
sounds like they don't have much planned further on beyond this. Apparently, Oscar Isaac was given like he's just like, I don't want to sign the multi-contract thing. I just want to sign for this. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I'm hearing.
I mean, I think we're gonna see him again. I think we're gonna see him again, but I think it'll
Oh,
be in like Blade or like Midnight Suns or
yeah,
whatever. You know, I kind of think this show. I don't think we're gonna get a second season of this show. Um,
yeah. I don't think you need it, but you could. But I don't think you need it
what do you think of the
so far.
fights? Yeah, what do you think of the fight scene when the third person, like presumably this third personality, like when all that happens when they're on the rooftop? Because this entire episode is set in Egypt,
Yeah. Oh, did you
supposedly.
notice by the music they really want you to know that it's in Egypt? Um,
I saw Oscar Isaac say that they didn't shoot a second of this in Egypt, and I was like, I think I could tell. It it
yeah, that's
it
why they
looked
need the music to tell you.
yeah. Um,
They really
I
go hard on that.
they really go in on the like Egyptian iconography as well. But
I mean, I love it. It's great,
yeah,
but
yeah,
let's. I would rather more like substance from like the actual. I would rather know more about like the nature of like the gods and like their relationship and like what are they doing? What do these meetings normally entail when they're not having
yeah.
to deal with Khonshu doing some crazy shit? Because it's obviously happening regularly. They all
Today
like
on the
everyone.
agenda, I-95 was really backed up last week, so we got to do something about that. I think if we just give like,
Yeah, it's just like a whole like there's nothing going on for like centuries. It's just
yeah.
bureaucracy or something.
Hang on, wait
But
a second.
like,
Why is Khonshu on the agenda? Wait, hang on. What's happening with Khonshu? What? I thought we were dealing with traffic violations this week.
no, Conchu's been leaving the toilet seat up again. You know how it is.
That's why he got exiled. They got real pissed
Yeah,
about that. So, but like my thing with the Egyptian like setting is it felt like there was a really cool fight sequence that I thought
yeah,
kind of fell a little flat on the rooftops. That feels very Aladdin, where he's kind of jumping from rooftop to rooftop at the beginning of it. And that was
a
very
little bit.
quick. Like that was
Yeah,
very short. And then we had the big fight sequence that was like in like a rodeo, like an arena. And that but the like we had a very this place, yeah. We had a very short fight sequence that felt very much like an Egyptian setting. And then we went to this kind of generic like rodeo
yeah.
place with horses for the big fight sequence. And it was like I would have rather the big fight sequence been this kind of Aladdin fight through the tops of the marketplace, you know? Like I think that would have been really cool.
Yeah, I think the whole setup with this guy with his little island. Is it like a little island in
I
Cairo, I guess?
guess. Yeah.
Um
Oh, this fight sequence is
and
cool though.
the fight is great. Um I mean that shot is just amazing.
Yeah.
Even if it does kind of look like the moon from DreamWorks. Is it DreamWorks with the person with the fishing rod
Yeah,
sitting on
yeah.
it?
It is, yeah.
Oh, so other than that, but yeah, I don't understand the whole logic of like there's this shady dude with one guard that Layla knows from her past, but somehow Mark has never heard of it and it's never come up in their relationship. But then I guess Mark has a whole nother personality that didn't come up in their relationship. So how the fuck they were
Well, the
married?
personalities thing didn't come up at all in the relationship. She has no idea about like even like a third one. Like
Yeah,
Steven to begin with, she had no idea about that, you know?
and he says something about well here's the thing, like I said this last week. So Stephen keeps saying stuff like, just give me my body back.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen doesn't know, and we don't even know if he is or he isn't, but I'm assuming that he's not. But Stephen doesn't know that he's probably not the original owner
Yeah.
of the body,
Yeah.
right? And through
The
the
original
episode,
personality. Yeah.
we're seeing Layla kind of, she's warming to him. There's a few
Yeah.
moments where
They're a
she's
better
really
match
starting.
than she and Marcus.
They
Yeah.
are, because he's
Yeah.
like really likes her and is appreciative of her, which is probably like much more like what Mark was like in the honeymoon period of their
Mhm.
relationship. And now he's just like cold and hiding secrets and got all this stuff
Yeah.
going on and
He doesn't want
disappearing.
Khonshu. He doesn't want Khonshu to take her as the next Avatar.
Here's what they're gonna do. They're gonna bing bong Stephen Grant. They're gonna do to Stephen
They're
Grant
gonna
what
do
we
the
had.
big. Wait, hang on. Do you mean from like Inside Out?
I mean, from Inside Out. Stephen is gonna have to do something where he's gonna sacrifice himself to like the recesses of the brain, right?
Uh-huh.
And Layla's gonna have to say goodbye to him. They're building this up, and he's the one that we started with, right? So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're watching the show, that's the guy that you're presumably rooting for. He's got the endearing accent, you know, chicks love
Yeah.
the accent, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
What you're saying is so sad, but because you said he's going to bing bong it, I it makes it, because you decided like the point of reference you decided to use for that was bing bong. And that's a very
what?
sad scene, but his name is Bing Bong. And that's what you're referring to it as, the Bing Bong
I
scene.
mean, what else can I use? Is the
No,
only
you're
the
right. You're
closest
right. No,
other thing that I can use as
hashtag
reference
Bing Bong it. Bing.
is is
You're
like, or
right,
maybe
Steve.
like what's his name in the Umbrella Academy in season 2, where the one that's
Oh,
dead has to die again. Ben
right?
Hargreaves, yeah,
Yeah.
and he has to say goodbye to Vanya. Like, I feel like we're getting set up for something like that. But what I want to know is what triggered, because Mark keeps alluding something happened, and it's not the thing that created his identity disorder in the first place. It's not the thing with Khonshu where he gets left for dead in the desert and accepts the god or whatever it is that happens. But he keeps implying that something else happens after that that has brought Stephen out and this other personality that keeps getting knocked around. It's like, how much bad shit keeps happening to this guy? And every time it does, it creates a new personality. Like,
I believe that what I remember reading when the so they gave the critics the first 4 episodes,
yes,
which was a lot. That's a lot of show to
for a
get.
6-episode show, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
And then I believe they accidentally put up the 5th, and critics got to see it by accident. And I
haven't
believe
heard that.
it was only a couple like critics that were like, I've seen episode 5, like they gave it to us by accident and then they took it away. But I believe what I was hearing was that some of these questions you're asking, they focus on in episode 5. That they're like, we're going to get into some of this. Like, it sounds like
Yeah.
that's when we're going to get into more of the mental illness stuff. Because the big
Yeah,
question was like, are they going to address it? Because I know a lot of the early reviews for the show were like, we've seen this much of the show and they don't really address it a ton. And so it sounds like right after what they showed in that first batch to critics is when we're going to get into like,
we're going to get that Fight Club moment where we're going to flash back. We're going to see all the past scenes. We're going to get a clear, like, cut idea of who came in at what point, who was in charge at what point. Like, say in episode 1, was that somebody else? Is that the original personality? And then Mark supersedes and takes over as the primary personality, which would then set him up to kind of be more of just like a classic superhero and kind of just doing more. You know, he still have the issues, obviously, but you know, he's not. You can't. Well, clearly, as we're seeing in the show, he just can't function as like a regular person or a hero, let alone like a superhero. You know,
Mark
he's
is not
struggling
good
to
at
juggle
being
it.
like a normal person. He's
Not
very,
at
I
all.
mean, he's kind of the perfect superhero, right? Like, or not perfect superhero, but he's like the perfect caricature of a superhero where he's like kind of dark and brooding and he's like, I don't have time for relationships. Like he's not, which that was another thing I saw people point out is like, why would Mark get a date with
The
the lady,
museum girl, right?
museum girl, right? If he was married and he clearly has feelings for Layla and is just trying to like
Yeah, and it's not
separate
even that
because he's worried about the
Yeah.
Khonshu thing. Yeah, so I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that would be rough. I think giving a mystical origin to the dissociative identity disorder,
it undermines it.
I think it would rub people the wrong way.
Yeah, I think so. And they haven't been over. We've only got 3 episodes in, but we haven't been overly consistent with how we portray that. You know, in the first episode, a lot of it was done for like slapstick, and as we've gotten more into it, it's fleshing it out, and there is some slapstick stuff to it and some comedy of like, oh, I wasn't here a minute ago, now I'm running away and stuff. But we are seeing the flip side of it as well, and I think they're definitely finding the balance.
Yeah.
I just don't know how we resolve this, because we're all rooting for a guy that isn't the guy. The guy that we're supposed to, or it's like the guy, we're not really getting that. We've only had in episode 3 really with Mark, and the guy who might actually be doing or driving a lot of the plot, we haven't even met yet. So which I suppose wouldn't be too dissimilar from like with like a Kingpin or a Cad Bane. So maybe like
it's like the opposite. It's like the protagonist is the one that we don't meet until the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, we're just getting drip fed this character.
I think it's cool though. I think it's different, and I think that like if we see Moon Knight in future projects once we've gone through this, we won't really have to do this again. We'll know the character.
We'll just know that he's a little bit troubled and he's probably struggling, but we're not going to then like cut away from like an epic, team up action scene to have Mark maybe. I mean, maybe he will, like, like a Bruce Banner Hulk thing, maybe like in the middle of a big battle and Mark regresses back into Steven, and then you've got like Daredevil and Spider-Man.
They've got to like protect him. They've got to like, they're like, I don't know, Moon Knight just stop moving. I don't know, man. Like that'd be cool. That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Spidey's like, I prefer this guy. Why can't we team up with him?
That would be God, dude, I really want to see this character team up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I think it's such an interesting dynamic to have with other characters. There's some other stuff I want to hit on. I want to talk about Layla, because we got a little bit more of her in this episode. We got that cool scene at the beginning with the passport, where they made the fake passport. That was very cool. I love it when a show decides to like focus really, like they decide to take a process and then they just show you the whole process, whether it's like, we're going to give this big monologue about this character's past while they're making a breakfast sandwich or something, but they're whatever. We do this a lot on television and movies and stuff. They're like, this is something that we follow this process entirely through and we give a monologue in the background. But I love that it's like
Breaking Bad.
Yeah. I just started watching Breaking Bad for the first time recently, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay, I nearly said some stuff then that might have. This stuff with the passport scene. There's a similar thing later on in Breaking Bad where it's a guy who makes the fake passports, and it's quite similar. But back to Layla, she's very friendly with the passport lady, but then she also says that she hasn't been there for like 10 years or something.
Yeah,
I kind of was a bit.
Talk about her dad a bit.
Yeah,
but her dad was like an archaeologist or something.
Spoiler alert. I mean, I don't know if this is supposed to be like obvious or not, but Mark definitely killed her dad, right?
Oh my god, I bet he did. Because he was a mercenary? Oh, no.
Because Harrow says something about, if you knew what this man really was, you wouldn't love him. And then Mark doesn't want to talk about it.
I think
I'm thinking, so her dad might have been on this expedition or on this mission with him when he discovers Khonshu
Hmm.
or whatever, and we don't know how the MCU is going to handle the origin, but you
Hmm.
know, shit goes down in the comics. He get
Hmm.
one of the other guys double crosses him for the I don't know if it's the scarab specifically, but for the
Yeah,
thing that they're trying to find, right?
the MacGuffin.
And the MacGuffin, he gets left for dead, and
Oh,
yeah. So, but what if they flip it in this, and what if Mark or presumably Jake, this other personality, which is why he's then tried to lock him even further down since. So this Jake character comes out when they're at the crux of getting the MacGuffin in Egypt, and then it's Layla's dad who gets murdered and double crossed, and that's why Mark, Stephen, whoever had the
oh.
scarab at the beginning. But obviously, it's not Mark's fault, really.
I
But she's not going to see it that. I mean, but then now she's grown to love or growing to like Stephen as this separate personality. So she's kind of come to terms with that's like how it kind of is, and she's kind of like, you know, she's accepting that this is a different person. So then will she then be able to take that extra leap if this is what happens and forgive Mark or accept that one of these other personalities did some shady shit and murdered her dad?
here's my theory. Mark and Jake are the two personalities that have been around the longest, and
Yeah.
they are the two that were on that went on that thing where they found the scarab. And I think Steven is a result of maybe Jake killing Layla's dad or something. Like,
But then that would tie him into like at the same time that he picked up Khonshu, right? And it's already established that he had Khonshu for a while before Stephen came
I
into the picture.
do
That's
they
what I
say
got.
that?
Well, not really, but it seems it was. I felt like they was implying that Mark has already had Khonshu and been Moon Knight for a little while before Stephen comes into the picture, and then obviously
I'd
Stephen
kind of thought it
takes
was
over and he
recent.
stops being Moon Knight. I mean, maybe it might be,
And by
and it
recent, I
would
mean
make
like
sense.
in the last year.
Yeah,
Like, but like, I'm wondering if Steven is
we
a
don't know how.
direct
Yeah,
response to not wanting to be this violent person.
yeah,
So this
it would
other
definitely make
personality is
sense.
created that's very soft and very like this is
Yeah,
kind of the trying to retreat away from the whatever that you did.
and Mark's the nice medium version.
Yeah.
You know, he's Goldilocks. He's just right porridge,
Yeah.
um, as it were. But yeah, that would totally make sense. And but we don't know how
Yeah.
old Stephen is. Like it seems
But
like he'd been working at the museum for a while, like a few months at least.
I almost feel like he lives a very isolated lifestyle. I kind of feel like I kind of felt like the apartment like predates him. And that he like I don't know, this is kind of the vibe I get is like he's working at this museum, he doesn't really have any friends there, he knows them and considers them to be friendly, but they don't really care about him, like the
Because he's only
security
been
guard
there for a
dude.
little while, right?
Like maybe that's like the like he hasn't really been there that long. Like I kind of get the vibe that maybe I mean anybody that's watched the show and my appearances on it can know that I definitely have had theories in the past that have not panned out. Mephisto, but I don't know. Moon Knight is Mephisto. No, that one's gonna pan out. That one's gonna pan out. No, I don't know. I think maybe Moon Knight has a Quinjet. That one's
In the
really gonna
comics,
pan out.
in the comics, he does, and it's in the shape of a giant fucking crescent moon. It's incredible, but I don't see them going that route
No,
in the show. It would they definitely did the show in this way to kind of get away from
yeah,
like the Batman thing.
it was
So
Dracula.
I
Oh
don't know
my
if giving
god.
him like a big mansion and like a car and a
Yeah, I don't think
cool
we're gonna do that.
plane, I would like it
It'd be cool.
because
We don't
I
have a
would really
Batman in the MCU.
no, we don't. And what I really want to see, and we kind of got it last week, but on a much smaller scale in the episode. But I want to see Stephen Grant finding out that he's like a millionaire because he doesn't know. But
Yeah.
in the comics, Mark or Jake, one of them is like the classic Bruce Wayne millionaire with the mansion.
Mhm.
So I wanted to see Stephen like find out about all this fortune, but instead what we got was he's got a seedy storage locker with some guns and cash and a
Yeah,
passport,
yeah.
which I think is about as close as we're probably going to get to like rich,
Yeah.
you know, kind of globetrotting, Playboy style character,
Mhm.
which is fine. I can
I
take. I
w
don't need it.
Yeah, it'd be cool, but I think, like, I don't know if they wanna draw comparisons to either Batman or Tony Stark
But
in
then they
this
had
kind
him
of
throwing those fucking batarangs in this episode.
They did, but they're fucking cool. I wanna talk
It
about
was
that
so
fight
good.
scene. I wanna talk about
Yes,
that fight scene
let's
because
do it.
is that the most brutal thing that's ever happened to an MCU character? Like, not let's not talk Netflix
What the
stuff.
spears?
Dude, they impale the shit out of him. Like multiple times. Like he's got like 6 spears sticking out of him at one point. Like, look at
Yeah,
that's
he looks
fucking
like the truck
brutal.
from Man of Steel.
He does. Look at him. I mean, that's got to be the most damage we've ever seen, like an MCU character take without dying.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Also, it'd be nice to kind of know what his capabilities are. Like, is he just when he's in the
Is he
suit,
immortal?
is he just immortal? Because and then the only weakness then becomes the personalities and the mirrors and
Hmm.
not being able to have it all of the time, which would be fine. But then if he does kind of move on past this stage of his life, is he then just going to be immortal like a
If
whole
they get him
bunch
in
of
the
the
head,
time?
is it like if they get him in the head where he's not covered, like, that'll do him in? Like, what's the
But yeah, he's throwing the crescent. I mean, I've always wanted to see this stuff.
Yeah.
He's throwing the crescents. He's doing the cape that we see. He's fighting all the guys, and it's not like overly choreographed, but also it's satisfying
It's
combat. It's not just
satisfying.
like
Yeah.
it's not sloppy. Well, it is, but
It's healing suit. Okay, okay. I guess I'll kind of buy that. It's a healing suit.
but you
Eh,
healing implies that you could only heal from something if
it's
you
like
could heal from
Wolverine.
it.
It's healing too fast for
Yeah,
him to die.
yeah. I don't know.
No,
I
your
mean, it looks
response is
great.
mine as well. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm with you, but I'll accept it.
But
Is this?
saying, I was
Sorry,
gonna
what were you gonna
go
say?
on. I was gonna say, just wanted to stay on that scene real quick because
Yeah.
at first, we've got the one shady, gangstery kind of dude that we don't
Hmm.
really know what he does, but he collects like artifacts and
It's
stuff.
like black
But
market,
he
dude.
wants to. He's black market. You can't get this stuff. It's unique. It's highly protected. But he just keeps it on a little island in a fucking open casket looking thing and just lets this fucking random stranger come in and who says, "Oh, I just want to look at it." Like that
I
was the
promise.
lamest fucking.
I'm not gonna touch it. I promise.
That was so contrived. I didn't like that. And then with one guard, but then all the other guards come out of nowhere
Like we were
later
in the
on.
basement.
I'm just like, what is the nature of that relationship, and like, what does that guy do? And
I
I
want to
don't
know
know.
more
I
about
just
Layla because that's what's connected to him,
yeah,
and that's like
exactly.
I'd like to know more about that. Um, is that is that the last fight sequence that was in the trailers? I don't think we've seen anything. I don't know if there's any footage from the trailer that we have not yet seen. I think we've
Yeah,
seen everything
I think so. That would track. Um,
because I remember in the
it's
trailers they really only showed us the fight scene in the bathroom, and then this one.
yeah, it isn't really much of a fight scene. It's like three
No. I
punches.
mean, we thought it was going to be more of a fight scene when we watched the trailer, and then it
Yeah,
wasn't. But it was no,
I
it was
mean,
still
I'm
cool.
glad
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
worked.
It worked. It worked. But I think like I don't think we've seen anything past this. Maybe
No,
like
and I,
some character shots, like a shot of a character's face or something. Maybe there's
yeah.
some stuff like that, but I don't think we've seen any extended sequences past this point.
Well, you've got to assume that we're gonna get like exposition heavy. We're gonna like really do that Fight Club thing. We're gonna
A lot of
explain
questions to be
a
answered.
bit, and we've got to answer a whole bunch of questions, not only to do with the personalities, but I want to know about what all the gods are up to. Ethan Hawke, what was why
His
was
backstory.
his backstory, um,
I want to know
you
more about
know,
Ahmet. Why
all
is
of this
Ahmet
stuff.
sealed away? You know, all this kind of.
Yeah, it feels like we've got so much to get into, and I'm glad that we didn't go into all of it, like, not straight away, but like I felt there were some moments in this episode where I felt like they could have
Explained a bit more.
elaborated a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, when he first walks into the Lamagra chamber, and one of the other avatars says to him, "Oh, I'm so and so.
Of
I'm the
Hathor or
avatar of
whatever.
Thingy," and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, please, because there's like 8 of them, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, please, if they do this scene and like everyone introduces themselves, like that's going to be overload. Like
Oh
nobody's
yeah,
going to
no.
remember all these names and all these
Yeah.
because you've
I'm
remembering the
glad.
name of the god, the name of the character, and like how they all fit in together. It's like if we're just going to like introduce ourselves to a room full of people, that's going to get real old real quick. So I'm
I
glad
like
that
the
they
way they did
didn't,
it. I like the way they
but
did it. Yeah.
also just a little bit more would
Yeah.
have been cool.
I did love that scene though, and I love how they were like, "Do you feel that you've been hurt by Khonshu, that you're being taken advantage of?" Like that was a very interesting
Yeah,
scene. I don't know. There's the idea of, because when you think about mythology, and you think about these pantheons, whether it be Greek, Roman, whatever, Egyptian, they don't really give a fuck about who they hurt. It's human wise, right? It's like they kind of
yeah.
going around fucking with the humans, and it's like, okay. But so it's interesting to see this perspective where they're like, do you feel that, like, it's almost like an HR meeting. Like it's weird. It's a very different thing to do for gods, but it's interesting.
What's really weird is that all the other avatars of the Egyptian gods trust Ethan Hawke's fucking
Yeah.
mellowed out white guy. They will, right? They will trust this guy before they trust one of their own gods and avatars.
Yeah.
So but then, and so I guess
Ethan
if they're like,
Hawke
oh
was
well,
kind of
Khonshu
tough
left
as
you,
fuck
right? So
too.
you must be trustworthy because if you don't like, if Khonshu doesn't like you, then we like
We
you,
like you
like enemy of my
exactly.
enemy kind of
Yeah, yeah,
situation.
yeah.
But is that really enough for them to like? He
No,
still gets invited to the meetings. He
no.
still like because they need magical fucking opening doorways to get in there, and he's just like
Well, they
walking
summon him
in.
because he's on trial, you know.
But
So
then
they bring
later
him
on, at
there.
the end
Yeah.
of the episode, he
He just
comes
walks
like
in.
they're
Yeah.
bringing him back in. He clearly has a much better relationship with them than Mark or Khonshu does. So are they're all in on it, or they're going to benefit somehow, or they just would prefer to turn a blind eye to what he's doing because it sounds like he's going to wipe out half of humanity because we haven't had a villain that does that yet. I don't know. But then he has to do it. He has to stand there and chant with a staff for like 20
Yeah.
minutes.
To do
So
it,
I
yeah.
don't know where the physical confrontation element comes in. I do
I
hope
guess
it's in that castle though.
because he's Dracula. I guess that is an interesting comparison of like he's got to chant and cast his spell or whatever, and Thanos was just like, if I close my fucking fist, you're all done for. You know, like if I snap my fingers, it's over. And that's an interesting like the level of stakes. They're like, we got 20 minutes. He's like, guys, he's starting to chant. What do we do? He's gonna be doing that for a while. We got some time. Whereas with Thanos, is like,
How
don't let
does
him
it
close his
work?
fucking hand.
Right? So if he does the thing, right, he gets the powers from the god that they're trying to find, so he
Yeah.
can do his judgment thing on everyone, right? That's what he wants to do. So once he's done that, say he wipes out 30, 40, whatever percentage of the population were either did something bad or, let's face it, you're not going to end up with a lot of people left
No,
at that point.
no,
You're
no.
probably, even half of his fucking crew will probably
No,
die.
I think most of them.
Probably. I mean, he might die,
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
point, because the very act of doing that would then become something that's like judge
yeah,
worthy, right?
yeah.
But then if he does that and he's successful, does he have to do it like annually every year? Because there's new people born, right? He would have he would just have to keep culling Or, somebody who passed the judgment test yesterday might wake up tomorrow and decide that they're going to go murder an old lady.
Well, the
So,
idea I think with Amit is that that's not a worry because Amit judges you
it
for everything
knows.
that you will do as well.
So, yeah.
Whereas
So it just
Khonshu waits until you've already done something bad. It's very
classic
much the
debate.
kind
It's
of
Daredevil and Punisher,
it's
right? Kind of.
classic, the classic Daredevil Punisher Project Insight. Yeah, but I just want to hear one more thing, and then we got to wrap things up. It was really fucking cool when they did the shit in the sky. That's it. He moved the moon around. Yeah, boom. Oh, Josh, you're on top of this, dude.
It's pretty cool, and I did love it, and I loved that. I loved how we used Steven's knowledge of the
Stars.
mythology and all
Yeah,
of the stars and stuff.
yeah.
It's a little bit hokey, like, okay, just got to put those things together, but it worked because we already established earlier on in the season that he knows about all of that stuff and he fanboys over the Giza pyramid and everything. But
Uh-huh.
if Khonshu's able to move the stars, and at the beginning of the episode, he makes a solar eclipse, he controls the moon.
Yeah.
Why the fuck does he need an avatar?
Well,
Can
because
he
he's not
not
supposed to
just?
do that stuff. He's not supposed to do it. It's
But
like I
then
could
why are they
intervene.
letting Mark run around because they know it's happening? So why are they allowing him to do that but not that?
Maybe it's like, well, they said they didn't want him revealing themselves. They were like, I think it's like, we live in a world full of superheroes. We're cool if this dude in a costume runs around and beats the shit out of people. But
Because
you can't
people will just
fucking
assume,
you can't
yeah,
cause a fucking solar eclipse in the middle of the day, you
yeah,
know? Like, I think it's that kind of thing.
yeah. Superhero in and of itself isn't
Yeah.
necessary. People aren't just going to immediately assume that that's what that is. But again, he he could manipulate the moon. He could
Yeah.
probably like do some other like
Thanos can
small
do that
scale
too. He did
stuff.
that. Remember when he did that with the moon? He liked it. Yeah. In Infinity War was,
Yeah, man,
it
that was that was a
tight.
time.
It was fucking
I
cool.
remember when that trailer was at Comic
Yeah.
Con and everyone was
Yeah.
talking about it, but they didn't drop it. But we all knew like Thanos threw a moon at Tony Stark, and it's
Yeah.
like
It was pretty fucking
how
wild.
how do they film that? How do you show that in a film?
We finally saw
And
it. It was cool as
and then
shit.
they did it, and it was great.
Yeah.
But we digress. It
Yeah.
was a good episode.
It was a great episode. I very much enjoyed it. I'm very excited for next week's episode and the week after that and all the episodes to come. Until then, Dean, where can people find you online?
You can find me bing bonging it at Twitter at
Hashtag Bing Bong it.
DLewis2099.
Hashtag Bing Bong it.
Bing bong it like it's hot. And you find me here every week doing the
Yes.
usual stuff.
Barring any more surprise sicknesses, you'll also find me here every week doing this Moon Knight show. Also on the internet at Sean_AFK, doing all my hashtag it was Dracula all along theories. You guys can find those there. You guys can follow this channel on Twitter at MovieBlogMerc. Obviously, you guys can, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Highly recommend doing it. Great content. You guys can check us out next Thursday and every Thursday, whenever this show is airing, at 6 p.m. Eastern, live, talking about Moon Knight. And then you can catch the VOD later if you miss it. If you haven't watched the episode yet, which if you haven't, what the fuck are you doing at minute 59 of this Moon Knight podcast? It's
Intersperse the episode and pause it like every few minutes. Watch
Don't
a
do
few
that.
minutes of this.
No, because we
like
jump
get
all
your own
over the
Stephen
place.
Grant thing going on.
But we jump all over the place. We can't. Don't do that.
Don't do that. It's a bad idea.
Until next week, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Bye. Wait. Bye.